Hello everyone and welcome. Make a cup of your favorite drink and get comfortable because this is a wonderful time for news stories from YellowCat. Send your own stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. As a young professional, I'm still getting used to dealing with clients, but today took the cake in terms of idiocy. What's your worst/funniest/strangest client story? Part 2. I work in an office assisting older adults access local services. After getting a call from the Lieutenant Governor's office, I was directed to a supposedly hysterical woman who hadn't left her home in months and hadn't eaten in 4 days. I call her to assess the situation and make recommendations for emergent services. An hour after this woman droning on about her sister and son, I ask her about her food situation. Can she walk around if we get her tote grocery store, etc.? She tells me that's not the issue and that she has food in the house. Why haven't you eaten then, I ask her. Oh, I just don't have an appetite, is her reply. Thank you for taking me away from legitimate clients who needed my help and getting the Governor's office calling me because you're not hungry. I used to work in a department store when I was a student. During one of my long and boring shifts, I make my way to one of the fitting rooms to pick up a pile of clothes that was sitting in there. As I walk in, there was a client standing there who asked me, "How does this look on me?" My general policy was honesty, so I replied, "Sir, that shirt doesn't look good on you. It's far too large, the colors are way off, and the cut does not fit your shape at all." Without blinking, the client then said, "The shirt's mine actually. I was asking about the pants." I then blubbered something about the pants being nice and ran out of there ashamed. We're looking for something a bit more edgy. After 15 years of video editing, nobody has been able to properly explain what they mean by edgy. Can you give it a film look? Me. That's interesting. What's a film look? Them. Well, make it look more like film. Me. But you shot it on mini DV in low light. It's not going to look like a Hollywood production. Them. Yeah, but can you make it a bit more filmy? Me. If you can explain what filmy means, I'll work out a way to do it. Them. Me. You mean professionally lit, composed, shot, and color graded? No, it will never look like that. You shot this footage on mini DV in low light. This is the best it's ever going to look. Can you make it pop a bit more? Yes, I get that one too. Best one yet. Okay, for the deliverables, we'll need MPEG-2 files for the website. Me. Well, MPEG-2 files are for DVDs. Are you sure you want those for your website? Look, just make them. Our web guy is a tech genius and he knows exactly what he's doing. Okay. Work. Invoice. 1 week later. None of our videos play properly on the site. You must have given us the wrong type of file. Me. Mux to MPEG-2 as specified by your web guy. But they don't play. Me. Yeah, I know. It's a DVD format. You won't get them to play without a decoder. 1 week later. Okay, we need FLV format for our website now. We, have a new guy. Work. Invoice again. So if you let the stupid client be right, you can often be paid twice for the same work. Was doing some basic CAD work for this old engineer. Basically, he scribbled on paper and I transferred it to the computer via AutoCAD. One day, we were having a little trouble and I suggested something on the computer to try. Keep in mind, he knows nothing about computers. Well, he proceeds to throw a hissy fit and state strongly how he does not pay me to think, but rather do what he tells me. Well, a few days later, we were having a similar problem on the computer. I knew the solution rather instantly. However, I kept my mouth shut for a few hours while he struggled. Finally, I suggested a solution. He asked why I didn't say so sooner. I then reminded him in a pseudo-polite manner how he didn't pay me to think. He immediately shut his mouth and then mumbled something. Quit working with that a-hole yesterday after a year of his ass. I worked at a grocery store during high school. This has to be my favorite. Customer. That was supposed to be on sale for $7.99. Me. It is. It puts the original price, $9.99, here, then puts how much it takes off, $2, as a negative underneath it so you can see your savings. Customer: I know how the computer works, but it's supposed to be $7.99, not $8.99. Me: it is $7.99. Customer: no, it's not. I'm an accountant for a living and you're just a lowly cashier. Trust me when I tell you your computer didn't ring it up sales price. Me: sir, I promise you the computer rang it up correctly. $2 from $9.99 is $7.99. He then proceeded to call my manager, who used a calculator to prove it to him. Worst accountants ever. Also, on an unrelated note, I deal with them by learning words such as b, a-hole, and idiot in sign language and essentially curse them out without them even knowing. It really helps. I used to work at Tim Hortons, and one afternoon shortly after I arrived for my shift, this guy comes in. He tells me he wants a chicken club sandwich, but all I want is the chicken. So, to clarify, I said, you just want chicken and bread? No tomato, no sauce, no lettuce, no bacon? He said no, so I shrugged and made it. When he opened it up, he started getting angry and yelled because there was only chicken on it and nothing else. I told him that's what he said he wanted, but apparently I misheard. Another time, some guy and his mother came to the counter and ordered teas. The guy's mother went to the washroom, and when she came back, she started being because she wanted an extra tea bag or something. I got the tea bag and slid it across the counter as we always did, and she then proceeded to tell my supervisor that I had thrown it at her. Filed a full formal complaint, and I had to go for a meeting with a manager a few days later. It was effing stupid. I could probably tell a million stories, but these ones stand out the most. I used to work for an add-on telephone service in the late 90s. After someone had set up an account, they called our number, put in their account number, and voila, they were charged a lower rate than their line provider. It was a great job. We were based just by Canary Wharf in super offices, and because it was before the .com/telecoms bubble burst, the rates of pay and benefits were really good. As on some shifts we worked till midnight, they booked us cabs home, which they paid for. And mealtimes and breaks, we would go out, stand by the docks, and smoke an assload of weed. Then we would come back chilled out and sort out customer queries. Pro tip: getting stoned at a call center makes you mellow, and that mellowness makes any complaint easier to handle. It was a sweet gig. So I get a call from a woman querying a call made from her account. She said she did not make it. In fact, she could not have made it, and she wanted the account credited. So, sitting there with a nice cup of tea and a warm fuzzy buzz from my last break, I said I would just need to ask her a few questions. Me: I'm sorry, but it is one of those questions I have to ask. Are you sure you did not make the call? Client: no, I couldn't have made that call. It was made at X o'clock. I was working in a school at the time, so it was impossible I made it. Me: okay, do you recognize the phone number that it was made to? Client: yes, it is my friend's phone number, but as I have told you, I was working at school at that time, so I could not have made that call. Me: does anyone else but you know your access code to make calls? Client: only my husband, but I think the penny dropped for both of us at the same time. While she was at work, her husband had been calling her friend. The caller was really dignified and apologized for calling. I told her it was not a problem and that this is what we were there for. But you could hear the shock and emotion in her voice. It was awful. When the call ended, I did not know what was worse, her finding out that her hubby was having an affair, or the knowledge that the jig was up for the hubby and her friend and the S-storm to come. As an older professional who is both sides, I have clients for whom I execute multiple projects and have resources like designers to take on parts of those projects. I expect my designers to educate me if I'm getting something wrong. Most designers these days are in a rapidly changing field where they are expected to have both technical and creative skills. I'm not expected to necessarily keep up with all of these like you are, but let's just focus on your example. If my designer sent me something and I had to call them up to ask them why the images were too low res for whatever document, banner, print piece, video, whatever, I would not be pleased if they basically implied it was my fault. I would have expected a call at the beginning of the project where the designer said, "Hey, we're working on this project for you, and if I understand what your mission is, for use in a Word doc that you're printing out for everyone, I can tell you that the source material y'all sent over is not going to cut it. My gut says you're not going to be happy with the resolution. Can you tell me how you got this file? Maybe I can help source something better." If I said, "Oh, but I thought it was a vector photo and would work," I would expect you to explain to me that it actually wasn't, that it was a low-res JPEG, and that just for future reference, photos actually don't come as vector files. At least then, if I end up with what I know is a crappy image, I was part of the process. On the flip side, this is how I handle my clients. I don't consider them idiots. I consider myself lucky that they can't, or don't have the time to, do what I do. And I serve at their pleasure. But I also work d-hard to make sure that we partner in things and that they understand if I think early on that there's a better way for them to do something, that I'm telling them to help them. Consider yourself lucky that your clients aren't as good at design or understanding the technical side of it. That's what's paying your bills. Because most of the time, until a lot of trust is built or you're very established, they don't hire you for your taste, because that's subjective and they probably don't think yours is better than theirs. I am also a graphic designer, and as such, I would like to point out how upsettingly abundant the techno Rs are. Recently had a client who was taking screenshots of a video and sending them to me to use on his vehicle, basically enlarging them to about 10 feet wide. This man could not understand why the images were blurry when enlarged because the video was high definition, and he insisted that I was doing something wrong. He proceeded to stand over my shoulder and guide me through an enormously silly Photoshop process consisting primarily of adding 10 inches to the height, then the width, then the height, then width, etc. until the picture was the appropriate size. Basically stretching and unstretching the image Play-Doh style until it was huge. "Preserve the pixels" was the phrase he kept using. It's okay you didn't know. This will work. Preserve the pixels. This was when I was in high school and I used to work at Subway. So this lady comes in with her 2 kids and asks for 3 sandwiches, which I kindly proceed to make. First, I do the 2 kids. No problem, the kids are polite and tell me exactly what they want. Then came the mom. Not to stereotype, but she looked like the kind of woman who is a trophy wife, attractive even in her middle age, but with a slight hint that not only was she borderline R, but that her hubby had paid for everything. Anyway, she proceeds to order a foot-long turkey sub. Remember this S exactly, on Italian herbs and cheese bread. She adds American cheese, so on, so on. Then, when it comes out of the oven, we start the veggies. Mind you, Subway policy is to change our gloves if we touch anything outside of the prep area as to not contaminate, but to be courteous, I had even proceeded to change my gloves between sandwiches, so at this point, I have touched nothing but her sub. She leans over and asks me lettuce, tomato, pickles, and onions. I put all of them on her sandwich, pickles last, and then I ask, "Anything else, ma'am?" She replies no, and I go to close the sandwich in order to cut it. At this point, the bee loses it. She goes banana sandwich and reaches over the counter, almost hitting me. "What's wrong?" I ask. "You are disgusting. Change your gloves. You touched the pickles with those hands." "But ma'am, there are pickles on your sandwich." "It's not the same. That is gross. Pickles are gross." "Would you like me to change gloves, take the pickles off, or perhaps make you a new sandwich?" "No, I want those pickles on there. Eating isn't the same as touching." At this point, my mind was full of F, but I went on with her demand, apologized, and let her go on her merry way. WTF, Reddit, how can people be that stupid? If you want to watch the part 1, click the link here. Thank you for watching. Guys, thank you for all of the support and likes. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet. See you next time.